think it was over like 6 years ago now, I decided kind of to drop the act of like sounding like anyone else. Up to this point, like almost every song I ever wrote was based on like a fictional situation or about my friends' experiences. So I decided to take this little song I wrote in 15 minutes on my parents' couch, just being honest about how I felt back then, and I recorded it in my basement. It was called Siberia. It was off tempo, it was unmixed, it was unmastered. Honestly, it was kind of shit, but I liked it for some reason. It was one of the few songs I wrote about me that I ever thought about making like a public statement. I have always wanted smaller things to look big, so I kind of just ran with it. I love the feeling of being me, I guess. So I contacted my best friends to shoot this little music video in my hometown of Avon Lake. At this point, Boy Airi had played a couple little shows, and like they knew that I was kind of coming back into music, but it really wasn't that big of a deal. I then contacted a bunch of musicians that I worked with, and I wanted them to learn this song. Like, these are musicians I respected. So I knew I had to make it personal. I chose people like close to me, so I called us Boys of Erie. Boys of Erie was actually based on one of the greatest pop songs ever written, in my opinion, which was Don Henley, The Boys of Summer. It was actually my mom and dad's like favorite song. I used to like listen to it in the car when I was like 7 years old. That was all I wanted back then, was to do what I loved with the people I loved most. Once the video was released, a couple hundred people seemed to enjoy what I was saying. I guess it's a small response compared to like how social media works now. Despite the low quality of music, it then became like a competition within myself to go bigger, do better. So I had to follow up. I wrote a song called October, and this song had a lot more potential. And I then realized if I was ever gonna like make this bigger than any previous band I was in or I wrote for, I had to kind of lay down my pride of only ever recording and producing tracks myself. So I remember my mentor and my guitar advisor, his name was Sam Gatz. He's currently now the frontman of the band Wellesley Arms. He was another Avon Lake kid, but he just never gave up. Like, he had played for so long and made it happen. But he worked with a team I contacted, and I used him as a reference. I ended up getting some small funding from a backer who saw potential in me. The original producer, though, that was assigned to me didn't take me too seriously. He actually ditched on our first session for a date. My backers put some funding, and the rest fell on me, working a 9-to-5 to pay for this so-called dream. They ended up giving me a substitute producer. He worked in pop. His name was Sam Osborne, and he tracked some of the best, honestly. But I was a scared, young, 24, 25-year-old kid who was given a chance to get back into the scene at an even higher level than I had been before. I came to a session with tonsillitis. Like, I literally had tonsillitis in my throat, doubting if I had the stuff to even do this. But I remember he like killed my insecurity in one response. He says, you got a nice voice. Since that day, he's still my right-hand man in anything I'll ever do. October was released on an even bigger scale, with a this time better mixing, mastering, and an even larger video that I still shot with my closest friends, but professionals, people that had been in it. This time we had some more funding. Was the song at the industry standard level? No, it wasn't there yet, but it was beginning to get bigger than I ever thought it was. I went from a few hundred responses to my music to over 20,000 responses, good and bad. I told myself, stay personal, Lyndon. I then followed up with a song called Carly. Carly got some like little radio play, college stations and stuff like that, and he got some attention, but at the time I really didn't know like the direction of where I was going with my music. I was just writing and releasing. That's all I really was doing. And I noticed that I started to like feel like pop was more close to my heart. I had written pop music before, and my sound started to like kind of reflect going from more that indie sound to a pop sound. Well, at the time, YouTube stopped really controlling the music industry, and TikTok started to kind of take over the flood of music. I started getting contacted by producers from all over, and I was asked to join an entertainment team that wrote for young, girly pop music. Fast forward, I was a full-time musician and writer. I made a deal with this team after picking up a few of their girls, but I kept telling myself, don't forget about Boys of Erie, because that's why I did this in the first place. So they agreed to my terms, and they gave me a list of cities to pick from to where I'd want to record this album. It was my first feature-length album, so I chose my hometown over all of it. I got my own place in Ohio, and I recorded the most personal album I could. I stayed away from my usual hyperlinguistic sound. I told basic truths about my love life, friends, struggles, and growing up in a 5-mile town. It was a pop rock album known as Love in the Suburbs. My producer, Sam Osborne, and I wrote it from the ground up. All original sounds, not one other writer on my track. I closed the door on any distractions, and I was excited to finish an album I wrote at the age of 24. Minus maybe a few that were written later on, but that was the majority of it. So I had a great team, a great manager, great producer. I was feeling good, still sober, you know? But, okay, so with the success of being a full-time musician, I feel like comes the darkness. I never had dealt fully with my mental illness, depression, anxiety, substance stuff that I dealt with when I was younger, the constant need for validation, that I'm doing the right thing. I was meeting people I looked up to. They were making me feel like I had already arrived when I hadn't done anything of significance yet. I was sober for almost 4 years. I felt the most productive I had ever been. I was loved by many. My phone would ring off the hook as soon as I woke up with plans, events, and opportunities. They would sometimes fly me out first class to places for writers' retreats. There were parties and club events. I could get into any door I wanted. I was literally playing with bands I looked up to. I was writing for people. I felt like I was there. But not because of anything I did, but because the people around me who already paid their dues. In the grand scheme of things, looking back, I was no one. I took comp checks and studio hand pay on artists I would have loved to be affiliated with, and I was told not to say I had anything to do with the track. There were times I would listen to songs come on that I knew I had a part in, but I couldn't even speak up. I became so private about it because I would, because if I would bring it up back home, people would call me a liar or a name dropper. And if the people did believe you and they did know what you did, they would try to piggyback on it or give me a piece of this. I also completely abandoned God. My foundation used to be kind of rooted in Him. Without being a worship leader first, I would have never learned anything of what I know. I have a complicated relationship with Him, but it still would have done me some good. And if I was going to be in a marketplace, why did I never give Him glory in any way? But long story short, I got so invested in looking the part and being at the events and living the fast lane that I forgot why I started doing it in the first place. It was to make music with my best friends and talk about girls and heartbreak and hometowns, and to relate to someone driving down the road in their first car after the worst day, and to throw on one of my songs and feel relief, like someone gets it, like Angels and Airwaves did for me, or Goo Goo Dolls, or blah blah blah, whatever your kick is. But no, it became the feeling of being feared and respected, not loved for what you bring to the table. So I got my band fully funded and access to record in the best studios in the world with the best manager somebody could ask for and the best friends one can know. I was never the nicest kid. I was narcissistic at times. I was a liar in some ways, never to hurt anyone. I think I just wanted to be liked. I would sometimes exaggerate involvements in projects because I feel like I wasn't getting credit. I wanted to feel like people enjoyed my company and my talent. When I first started playing, I was 9 years old, just trying to be like my dad. He used to marinate me in the 60s with the Turtles, the Beatles, the Zombies, Mamas, whatever, true writers who wore their hearts on their sleeves. I ended up choosing things I wasn't ready for. I started acting like I made it before I did while holding 100 secrets. Meanwhile, my album, which was funded for me after all my hard work, was slipping through my grips. I was warned by the closest advisors and friends and managers that you're gonna throw it all away. No matter how pure my intentions were, I started chasing the wrong things and then blaming others for my problems. I was prioritizing so many toxic environments, screaming, like me, please like me, tell me I'm Jesus. I fell in love for real the first time with someone who didn't need any of my chaos, and I didn't need theirs. I always struggled with telling the truth about so many things in my life, but once I broke my 4-year sobriety, all bets were off. I would fabricate and tell stories that were sourced in truth. I would get so blacked out I didn't even remember what I said, because in that state I was telling the truth. My brain thought in that state that was the truth. Once I started drinking and drugging again, I did things I never thought I was capable of. I hurt so many people that I even, some of them didn't even do anything wrong to me. My manager abandoned the project, and I was fired from the entertainment group I worked for. I lost my sponsors and my endorsement deals, clothing, lifestyle teams, loved ones, friends, and even family. By the time Love in the Suburbs was getting close to being done and mastering, I was 28 years old. The songs weren't even relevant anymore. Half of them were written when I was barely 21. I was past that time in my life. The songs held no relevance. I remember being at shows I played, and a young 16-year-old would come up asking if they could purchase the album or if we had any hard copies, and I just kept telling them, it's coming. I stopped playing shows, stopped releasing music. I stopped taking care of myself. I hurt everyone around me. I hadn't truly cried in 5 years, and I was crying every day for years straight. So I wanted to let everyone who took the time to watch this know that I'm truly sorry for not being the person I was supposed to be and not representing my words the right way. And to all those who stayed faithful and friends of mine through my most toxic stage of life, I want to apologize. So I want to apologize to people who gave me their all, the ones that I failed, not just the ones that didn't do anything wrong to me, but to everyone, to all my friends, to ex-girlfriends that I've hurt, to my family, to people that saw me in such a low state that they didn't even know how to handle me because no one ever saw me like that. For choosing things over my calling, for stooping low, for lying, for partaking in things I knew were not good for me. I still struggle a lot day to day, but I'm getting better slowly. So to all those I've hurt, by the grace of God, I have a new opportunity, and I have a self-titled project on the way with the biggest team I've ever worked with. People I never thought I'd be able to call my friends. But to all those hometown kids on the coast of Lake Erie and every little or big show I played around the country and every high school or 67-year-old that ever wanted more music from me, I'd like to announce I decided to release the album that never saw the light of day. And at this point, I know that not many of you probably care, and not many of you probably made it to the end of this video, and that's okay. But this is my apology gift for dropping the ball in my life. And all the people that invested in me when I wasn't grateful, I guess it's for you guys. It's not fully mastered, it's outdated, and it's also not at the level that I am now. It's lost to big time marketing, and it might be completely irrelevant. But if anyone was excited about a small town kid making big waves that wiped out, if you ever cared about London Ladikos at 24 years old, Love in the Suburbs is that manuscript. So this is for Boys of Erie, and I thank every single one of you for making me feel like I had the makings of greatness. I'm gonna be back soon, just as London, not as Bo. But Bo will always be a brand, and it will always be close to my heart. And even if I'm a janitor in 3 years, I'll never regret giving up anything to try to make it happen. I was gonna go play college baseball. Instead, I made this mess. I always said, it really doesn't matter because they really don't care. Just play a good game where you get good grades. I'll be a star-crossed lover that everyone knows will be your favorite fucking band from the 440. Okay, I have an idea. I go ahead.